I'm Travis Bader, and this is the Silvercore Podcast. Join me as I discuss matters related to hunting, fishing, and outdoor pursuits with the people and businesses that comprise the community. If you're new to Silvercore, be sure to check out our website, www.silvercore.ca, where you can learn more about courses, services, and products that we offer, as well as how you can join the Silvercore Club, which includes $10 million in North America-wide liability insurance to ensure you are properly covered during your outdoor adventures. This week I speak with April Vokey of Anchored Outdoors, Fly Gal, and MeatEater fame. We discuss her humble beginnings growing up in the lower mainland of BC and how she took her passion for fishing to become one of the most renowned authorities and celebrities in her field. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exciting podcasts that we have lined up. So today I'm joined by a homegrown Canadian fishing legend and proprietor of AnchoredOutdoors.com, April Vokey.
Hello.
Welcome to the Silvercore Podcast.
Thank you.
Now, I'm really excited to be chatting with you. I mean, we've known each other for a while. We text and chat back and forth, usually about work-related things, and I figured why not use this as an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, it's long overdue, and it's so cool to see you in your recording studio right now because I feel like I've been there. I've been in your guys' home, and I've seen all your cool toys.
Well, you know, this whole recording studio is a work in progress, but yeah, if it wasn't for COVID, I would have loved to have been doing this face-to-face.
Yeah, well, it'll happen again.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
For the listeners' sake, I'm just going to give a little bit of an intro here, and then we'll kind of get things rolling. So in what would seem like a relatively short period of time, you've been on the Steve Harvey Show. You've been on 60 Minutes with Bill Whitaker. You've had shows on the Outdoor Life Network, on the Discovery Channel. You've hosted your own show, Shorelines. You've been involved with MeatEater. You're a brand ambassador for Yeti and Patagonia. You've got over 125,000 people following your every move on Instagram. And now you are running your burgeoning enterprise, AnchoredOutdoors.com, and it deals with fishing and hunting and foraging and homesteading. And I know you've done a lot of podcasts and shows and talked about the whole fishing side. And as much as I'd love to talk about that, and I'm sure the listeners would be interested in that, they can go to AnchoredOutdoors.com and they can learn about that. I mean, there's even a Pacific Northwest fishing course there that they can take.
There is. Right. Look it up.
I know. I think you learn all the tips and tricks. I guess what I'd like to really talk about is how you took your passion for the outdoors and for fishing, and you've turned this into a burgeoning multimedia empire and community.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, we just went live in February. The show has been active for 6 years now, but it was time to take it to the next level. And so to me, it is a community in so many more ways than just our members, but obviously also the contributors as well. It's just been a long time coming, and I'm very proud of it.
When I'm looking at that, community is a big word that stands out to me because I look at the people that are interacting. I look at the people that are learning on Anchored Outdoors because you've got your master classes, which are really cool. And you're right in there with them too. I mean, you're learning alongside of the people in the community how to use a bow drill and make a fire. And what's the one that's going on right now? You're tanning
fish leather. Yeah.
That's crazy.
All these skills, it was like, okay, I just got exhausted trying to constantly find these classes. You can go to masterclass.com and they've got a million amazing classes on a number of different topics, but nothing that interested me. There were no hunter-gatherer courses, outdoor classes. I mean, I think Tony Hawk and the gardening guy were probably the closest thing that appealed to me there. So I was able to find a couple online courses here and there, but they were all on various websites. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna take all these classes and put them under one roof and really be the outdoormasterclass.com. And so that's what AnchoredOutdoors.com is very quickly evolving into.
And you got some big names on there too. Some well-talented people. Josh Nyland.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big name.
They've got to be the best in the, and for anglers, sorry to cut you off. It's just,
go ahead.
So exciting. Like even Steve Rajeff, the world casting distance champion, like he's on board. And right now we've got a cameraman up north doing Bob Clay's bamboo rod building masterclass. And it's just, it's really cool because most of the instructors have been on the show. And so we've gotten to know them. And I think this is what's so special about it. Yes, they're the best in the business. Of course, we want to know their skill set. But how cool is it to learn what they're teaching after we've heard their story, where they were born and raised? Why are they like that? Why are they so ambitious? And really be able to have their voice resonate with us because we know who they are. It just, to me, it's a real rich environment. And it's a community that I would want to be a part of. And so that's what we're doing.
So you built it. You said, this is a community I want. Done. I'll build it myself.
Yeah.
So speaking about born and raised, you were born and raised in my hometown of Surrey, British Columbia.
Woo, Surrey, what? Fleetwood.
Fleetwood. See, I was Newton. I was more of a Newton guy.
Well, we were Newton first. We were on 129th Street. Yeah, that's right. 6336 129th Street. Actually, first we were Delta, and then we went Newton, and then we upgraded into Fleetwood.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you were actually, I didn't know that. You weren't too far from me. I was 132nd and number 10. That's sort of where I grew up. When people look at your CV, and I only touched on a couple of things in there, there's a lot of things that you've done. Coming from humble beginnings, how did you do that? You just said, hey, I really like fishing. I know. Let's just, let's get 125,000 followers on Instagram and just start rolling. Like where did it start?
Oh man, where did it start? Well, it started with having to grow the passion, you know, and that was instilled at me at a really young age. And, you know, a lot of people have already heard the story, but my parents don't really fish. But we did do some weekend trips out to Chilliwack, or, you know, we would go into the interior and go on those old stinky boats and troll worms around. And up behind Panorama Park, actually, the elementary school, back in the day, just up and to the right of our house, it used to be before it was developed, it was all acreage in there. And it was full of ponds. And so I would go on my bike. This is back when you could let your kid do whatever they wanted. And so I would take my mom's nylons, the good old days, take my mom's nylons and a hanger and go and catch frogs and salamanders and then bring them back into our pool. And that was really what got me excited, you know, catching all these slimy creatures. And then obviously going fishing, seeing the salmon, learning that salmon they need to come through a river that's what, like 20 feet wide? Then surely we can intercept them, you know, the mathematics work. And so that was where it really all started. And then from there, it was, you know, I'll skip past all the rigmarole that goes in between. So, you know, school in Surrey it got interesting, and I was rolling with a rough crowd. Right. So I would choose to escape by going fishing. And it was able to give me that sense of wild and the rebellion that I really needed without sniffing, you know, snorting cocaine or being promiscuous. And so when my friends were going to party at night, I would party too. But then, you know, I needed to get out of there at a decent hour because I needed to A, sleep, or B, get to the river before sunup. So fishing was really, I will forever credit fishing to being my saving grace and what kept me out of trouble growing up.
You just had a passion for that, but I know a lot of people who've got a passion for what they do, making it into a business. I mean, you just jumped out and said, I know, I'm going to start guiding now. I really like fishing. Let me turn my passion to work.
Well, it was more than passion. You know, passion is really loving something, like really loving something. Maybe you eat, sleep, breathe it. For me, it was the only thing that kept me grounded, but also I really attribute it to keeping me alive. I really, really do. So for me, it was just a necessity. Like I had to fish. If I didn't go fishing or just be outside, right? Be out in the river. And obviously if you're out there, you may as well go fishing. I was going to end up like my friends were ending up. And a lot of them, it was in really bad places. So for me, it was like, I need to be outside. Okay. But I also need to make money. And so I guess at that point, I was still bussing tables at Olive Garden. Actually, it started as bussing tables at Earl's. And then it was Red Robin. I was in Guildford. And then it was, and then it was Olive Garden. That was when I became really, really sick in the head. And I guess it would have been before Olive Garden. Sorry, I had a high school boyfriend. And so at that point, that would have been still really early days, just after Earl's. So like, 16, 17, 18 years old and going out to the river after work.
Okay.
And it became I was stuck between a rock and a hard place because eventually I would want to, I'd want to work nights and I'd also want to go fishing in the day. And I was starting to get burnt out because I would end up basically not getting any sleep. I'd pull over on the side of the road and I'd sleep, or I'd sleep in my car in the middle of a fishing day. But long story short, I just needed to cut something out. And I knew I didn't want to be a busser or eventually a cocktail waitress forever, which is, what I ended up doing. And I thought, well, okay, what do I want to do? I've always wanted to be a businesswoman since I was like 2 years old. For honestly, 3 or 4 years old, I've wanted to be a businesswoman. And the only thing I really loved was fishing. And it was all I wanted to do. So I thought, well, I better make a business at fishing. And how am I going to do that? Well, I need to be good. So how do you get good? You've got to do it all the time. And then how do you promote? Well, people need to know who you are. And then it was all this amazing, perfect timing with social media. It was when, I was doing it before Facebook. But when Facebook came out, I saw an opportunity and I grabbed it, right, wrong, or otherwise. I mean, we've all made mistakes growing up and I've done some really stupid things and said a lot of stupid things. And people who are from our hometown are listening right now and going, "Oh, she has got a mouth on her." I've done and said a lot of stupid things, but at the end of the day, I use social media to help drive my career, and the rest is history.
I got to imagine today's day and age in the commercial guiding fishing world, you see a lot of women. Not so much back when you were doing it.
Oh, yeah, no. No.
So that must have been, that must have been difficult.
Well, it was and it wasn't. I did it to myself in a lot of ways. Yes, like the number, there were no women. So, right. Kathy Reddick was an OG. So Kathy was there, Denise Maxwell, right. A handful of other women. Adrienne Camo, my best friend, she was getting started at the time. She was working at Michael and Young's Fly Shop. But I was still cocktail waitressing every night at the casino in Langley. And for me, that was a business. I made my own hours. I went in. To me, it was like rented space, right? You work as many hours as you want. You've got rented space. You hustle as hard as you need to. You go in with a budget or a goal. I need to make $400 in tips tonight. I got to hustle. I need to be out of here by 2 or 3 because I want to be first thing on the river, blah, blah, blah. And so to hustle, unfortunately, there's a certain look that makes you more money. I mean, I feel like I was split. Right. I was like split testing back at the casino. I was like A/B testing. Okay, so what's going to get me more money? Does my hair this color work? I mean, I made way more money as a blonde, to be totally honest. And
really?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and the dress code was, we had to have nice hands. And I was a really keen sturgeon fisher and actually even at some point a guide. And my hands were full of bait, crusty, procure, or just even like crusty stink bait. Right. And so I had to cover them because you're dealing with chips, right? Like even though I was cocktail serving, people are handing you chips and you're giving chips back. Right. And so the dress code was you had to have nicely manicured nails. And so the only way for me to have nice hands was I had to have fake nails to cover my disgusting hands. and so then I would get off work at, 3:30, 4:30. It depended on which shift I was on. But usually I worked the 10:30 to 4:30 shift, and then I'd go straight to the river. Well, I don't have time to take my makeup off. I've got to get to the river. I'm in a bloody hurry. And I still got my nylons on and my hair's all done and my nails all did, so I looked a certain way and for a lot of, especially guiding, my first year of guiding, I was so excited to guide for sturgeon on the Fraser. And admittedly, like I worked for a different company at the time and they kind of just threw me a jet boat and they're like, here, use this for guiding. Your boyfriend will train you at the time. And my boyfriend didn't train me. Shit. When we were out on the boat, we were fishing. We weren't training me. And so I didn't know how to run a boat very well. And my truck that I had bought for guiding season was a lemon. And And I didn't know this. So when I brought it into Craftsman Collision in Chilliwack, the owner, the owner there was like, here, your frame's bent, but I'll tell you what, you can use my Hummer for guiding or like for whatever you need to do. And I needed something that could tow a boat. Yeah. But it's one of those new Hummers. I'm still working because I would work all night and then guide all day. So I'm still going straight from the casino now to the river for my first guiding year, really, in a jet boat with a Hummer. And of course, my employee at the time has decked out the jet boat with like pink decals, right? Or decals with his company name. Of course, people are staring. And then I'm this complete dipshit who doesn't know how to like have you ever been to Island 22 in the morning trying to back your boat up at 8 a.m. with the rest of the guides? All the clients are staring at you. All the guides are staring at you. And you're learning as you go.
Right.
So, and then of course you're embarrassed and you're insecure and you're young and you say stupid things. And yeah, it was rough the first little bit. But yeah, so anyway, all that to bring back to your point about social media. Yeah, there were not a lot of women back then. And I'm sure that if I had looked a different way, I would probably have been better received. So who knows if what I was receiving was based on me being a woman or just based on the fact that I looked very much out of place.
You mentioned being insecure when you're learning through that process there, and that's a word that I wouldn't ascribe to you. In the entire time I've known you, insecure is not one of those words. Is that something you just had to learn really quick to have a thick skin, or have you been fairly headstrong most of your life?
Yeah, no, I've definitely been headstrong all my life. And I wouldn't say I am an insecure person, but I can be insecure about certain skills that I know that I have not put the time in to be good at. Right. And in that case, or about certain, like I'm insecure right now about the size of my bum. Like you're allowed to be insecure about things and it doesn't make you an insecure person. And so in my opinion anyway, that's how I, justify it.
No, I agree.
On the boat launch, I was really insecure for sure. And just really nervous, really nervous about all the eyes on me that I didn't necessarily want. Like I don't know if I definitely didn't want that much attention. It's one thing if you're shit hot, you're
right.
like, yeah, look at me now. But when you're just learning, you're like, please just stop watching, please. And everybody wants to come and offer an opinion and you're like, yeah, but you're just making it worse. Like I just need to figure it out.
Just go away. I know. I'm sure everyone's had that one. I think Family Guy had a good clip of Peter Griffin trying to back a boat into a boat launch. He basically just ends up running the thing right down forward. Good to go.
Yeah. I didn't have any crazy. I had one stupid, I take that back. I did a couple stupid things. I was not a great sturgeon guide, but that actually was great for me to learn because it wasn't so much even that I wasn't a great sturgeon guide. It was that I didn't care to be a great sturgeon guide. And that's what it came down to for me. That was really the first step in being a business owner. So I always have believed that you need to do what you love. And if it's not in business, then it's in life, but you need to be happy. That's really important to me. And it's the foremost, it leads my whole life and my business. And for me, it was like, okay, I did want to guide. I did. And I'm doing it because this is what guides do in the Fraser Valley, right?
Right.
But then why do I not like it? And then I started doing salmon trips and I was like, I'm into this. I'm really into this. And then I started doing steelhead trips. And that was me. That was it. That was what I wanted to do. And there was a handful of steelhead trips available through the company I was working for. And I just thought it was time to branch out to do my own thing. I wanted to do more steelhead trips my way. So that's exactly what I did. I started Fly Gal. I had Fly Gal because I was a sales rep at the time, and I used Fly Gal as my business for write-offs and stuff, but ended up turning it into my guiding operation. And really, that life was never the same again.
So everything you've done is basically School of Hard Knocks. You didn't have any business schooling behind you.
No, definitely not. School of Hard Knocks, 110%. But my mom is a very, very savvy businesswoman.
That helps.
Yeah. She and not. I wouldn't even more in like the administrative side, right? So like to this day, my mom helps me with I'm all about numbers and crunching. So to this day, I'll be like, Mom, I'm having a really hard time with my spreadsheet. Can you please help me with my projections? And so she's kind of always been my little, like my coder. And it's cool because we work together. So I have always really been in marketing. And I remember my mom telling me when I was in high school, you need to go into marketing. And I was just like, that's just such a stupid name. Like, what's marketing? Sounds like you're going shopping on a weekend. I didn't want to go into marketing. And I should have. I guess I did end up going into marketing, actually.
You did go into marketing.
I did go into marketing.
Big time.
Mothers know best.
Yes.
But yeah, she would come home upset about things at work. She was the big buyer. She was in Langley, but now she's retired now, but she was the head buyer for the city of Chilliwack. Or she was at first head buyer at Langley, then Chilliwack. And she would come home upset from the guys at work because she was the bigwig and dealing with a lot of those guys and gals. There was a lot of stuff that she had to go through. And so she'd sit down and together, I would help her craft her emails to go to her, whoever it is who's given her a difficult time. And so I learned a lot through business by helping my mom through her business. And then my mom would also help me with mine. So to this day, we still do work together, and I'm forever indebted to my mom. So yes, it was hard knocks, but it was hard knocks with the support of a wonderful family.
That is so cool. That's so cool. It's good that you had that, but even having all the support out there, you still have to take it upon yourself to accept that support and start pushing it forward. When we talk about marketing, you've been very, very successful in marketing yourself and marketing the brand, and you've done it. I mean, there's a few ways that people can market themselves, and you have done it in a way that's very true to yourself. I think, anyways, from my position looking in, you can watch the Instagram posts of people, and there's surefire ways to get likes, and the entire process, from my perspective, anyways, has been very honest. Like you're laying it out there, and it seems to have been really well received.
Well, to me, I mean, integrity is everything, right? So if you're not true to your word, then what have you got left? And I really, really believe in that. And so you also need to remember when I started using social media, and just Facebook, because Instagram was, I mean, we all were like, Instagram, none of us were going to join Instagram, but just Facebook, it was really provocative to post a grip and grin photo in a tight-fitting cardigan. It was different back then. So even when I would go from the casino and I had this REI, or I guess Mountain Equipment Co-op, thermal shirt that was bright fuchsia, and because I wore a pink scarf to stay warm on the Thompson, that was provocative. Or the fact that my hair looked combed, that was provocative. Right. It was different then. Now, I mean, it's almost like, it's like watching movies and media, right? You have to just go more and more shock factor.
Right.
And I feel like social media now, everyone's constantly trying to push the limit. And for me, because that's just never been in my DNA, it's just not, like I was already made to feel really not guilty, but aware of being provocative with a pink scarf. So the thought of even thinking to take my clothes off or do some of the ridiculous things that we're seeing people do on Instagram now, that just doesn't register with me. Right. Now, I'm not against it in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways I am, and in a lot of ways I'm not. But, it's funny. I give grief to people on my podcast all the time. Quietly, maybe subtly, just about being an influencer. But it hit me the other day. I was like, it really is no difference. I use my social media to, yes, share my life and grow community, for sure. And I've made some wonderful relationships, but I also use it to promote my business. Now, why do I want to promote my business? Because I genuinely believe in my product, and I genuinely believe that it helps people and builds a better community. It's a win-win-win-win. Right. But is that any different to the person who's using it to sell product as an influencer that they also believe will help people's lives? So, it's a real sticky subject, social media. I think the big thing, my mom said to me the other day, she was like, how are you doing balancing showing your life versus your business on social? Right. And she was like, do you get any complaints that you've been promoting your business? And I was like, but Mom, the reality is, like, I want to share my life, but I'm also not in the business of just, here, look at how awesome my life is. Look at how great I am. Look at how much fun I have. You know, and just because, you know what I mean? I'm in business. Like, of course I want you to follow me so that I can inspire you and we can get to know each other, or we can take a course together. But I am not in the business of being like, look at how awesome I am. My life's just so wonderful.
Well, that just alienates people.
Right.
I mean, it might be fun to look at, but over the long term, I think that just alienates people.
So I think staying real, as much as I want to be like, yes, I'm definitely authentic, because I want everybody to feel real and authentic. At the end of the day, I also believe it's just part of business as being real. So it's one and the same to me.
Well, one of my, and I think it's a lot of people quite liked this one post that you put out there. Do you want to talk about Martin?
Oh yeah, my cigarette ball.
I mean, it's got nothing to do with fishing. It's got nothing to do with, but it has a lot to do
community.
With you.
Yeah.
Well, it's got a lot to do with tenacity as well, and perseverance and dedication. Can you tell us about Martin?
Yeah. So I was always the girl in school when I went to Ember Creek. That was where I did my 10, 11, 12. Ember Creek, I was the girl walking down the hallway, and I'm very proud to this day that I knew everybody. Like the Asian kid in the corner, Gavin, who didn't speak, to Mark in the band room, who people didn't even think could speak English. Every single person in that school I knew, and really enjoyed watching everybody come together to do great things. And the teachers, I'm sure I was a pain in the ass. Like, we didn't have a female football league, so I rallied all the girls up and made it really difficult for them to say no. And I was the one trying to organize walkouts, and I was that.
Good for you.
I was that girl. But I loved community. And one of the things that very quickly became this communal thing was this ball I had started making named Martin. And so back then it was this thing where, like, you could take cigarette tinfoil, and I don't smoke, so I don't know if it's the same, but you would, today, but you would peel the paper off of the tinfoil, and it would have this bit of adhesive on it. And so you would use your hands to roll it into a ball. And I had heard that you could sell it for $500. So I was very excited about I needed $500. Who doesn't need $500? I mean, my car at the time was worth $500. So yep. I was set on getting this ball. And I can't remember why he was named Martin. Oh, that's right, because my dad plays guitars, and he was all about, the Martin. And
the Martin, yeah.
And so we had Martin, and everybody who smoked would start to bring me these tinfoil pieces. And I went to school every day with the street, what's that chocolate? It's like the something streets chocolates at Christmas.
Okay.
It's like this, it looks like this, it's this tall, big container of like.
Not Toblerone.
Well, it's like quality chocolate that you get.
Okay.
That you get at Christmas time. And so even the kids would even pass it around and be like, here, let me take it for lunch. And they'd go and fill it up. And I would spend a bunch of time at lunch out there in the field picking up all these tinfoil bits. And the teachers got to know Martin, and the cafeteria tables had this kind of like an orange peel top. So I would carry a spoon in my pocket, and I would constantly be rolling, because I can't sit still. I'm one of those people that'll drive you crazy because I can't stop. Yeah. And so in class, I could stay moving by rolling Martin. And then I would roll him on the cafeteria table and bang him down with my spoon and really compact him. And everybody was fascinated. I mean, I had teachers giving me tinfoil. So wow. Ember Creek is to blame for Martin, who I didn't end up selling and gave to my dad. And now he's like half the size of my face.
And he's huge.
Totally hard. He's like fully hard. He's like concrete. Yeah.
Yeah. And if people want to see it, just go on the Instagram account, check it out. It's but to me, that's a lot of perseverance. And the fact that you're doing it to make $500, I mean, that's just that much better. That's the entrepreneurial spirit right there.
Yeah.
At a young age, I was told I had ADHD and a few other things, and, bouncing off the walls, always doing something. I can appreciate that. I don't know if I got ADHD, but maybe I do, maybe I don't know. But it is something that I've seen in other entrepreneurs, is this constant drive, this constant need to keep pushing forward. Is that something that you would attribute to your constant need to keep pushing forward? And do you get bored after a while and say, I got to do something completely different now?
Whoa. Well, I don't know what the word bored means. But yes, if I ever start to feel like I may be getting what I assume is bored, then yes, I go and do something else. So there's nothing scarier to me than a human being bored. I mean,
totally.
We have books, this thing called books, right? Like you can literally be quote unquote bored and decide tomorrow to learn an entirely separate, like a new language.
Right.
There is zero excuse to be bored. And I'm not a doctor and I don't know anything about ADD or ADHD, but it's interesting in reading certain studies and people who are passionate about primitive skills and hunter-gatherer skills. A lot of people will say that is a genetic thing, something from our ancestry where you needed to be constantly aware and not be able to focus on one thing necessarily while out in the bush, even just to stay alive. So there's a lot of interesting theories on the whole ADHD thing.
What about getting into something like you really got into fly fishing and getting typecasted as, hey, she's the one that fly fishes, no gear for her, or do you find it difficult to not get constrained by the business that you're building?
Yeah, all the time. I'm constantly put in a box, which is hard because I did not start out fly fishing. I was a spoon angler tenfold, and bait. I would be sitting there at night procuring my bait and cutting up squid legs and constantly playing with different colored cures and borax and all that stuff. And I'm still really into that. I still like to live bait. I live part of the year in Australia. I fish a bunch of soft plastics and live baits and all these other lures. And it's hard for me to get out of that box. I know people really like to put me in a box. And again, a lot of it's self-inflicted. But, the one thing that's nice about Anchored Outdoors is it's not about April Vokey.
Right.
Yeah, which was a big, very cognitive decision years ago that I knew that I had made the mistake of building a business around myself. And that was a dead end. And I knew that I needed to take the next step forward and I was just more fulfilled. I didn't want it to be about me. I never wanted it to be all about me.
Just like you, so Silvercore, which is the main business, named after my grandfather, Silver Armino, my other grandfather, Cornelius Bader. I just took the silver and the core, put them together. One was a VPD detective. The other one was an entrepreneur, had a bakery. And I thought, I'll put these two things, what do they call it? A portmanteau when you put them together. But I was very conscious at that point. I didn't want to call it Travis Core. I didn't want to make it about me because my thinking was, if I grow something and I put all this energy into it and it's so deeply tied to me, how do I take that next step to do something else if I want to stop that or sell it? So I never had that dilemma of having something named after me, but building the April Vokey brand, you looked at that as a bit of a dead end, did you? Or something that would be just too tied to you that you couldn't grow past?
It is a constant decision that I make every year. Every single year I sit down and decide, because look, business is all about trends and trends change.
Sure.
And, 15 years ago, it paid to be corporate or to appear to be corporate, to be responding to us or like responding as us, we.
Right.
You didn't want to look like you were a single man business. You wanted to look big. You were the big guys.
Right.
Now it feels, and again, it changes every year, but now it feels like it is advantageous to have your face behind it. People want to know who they're dealing with. They want to hear your story. And so even with Anchored Outdoors, which is recently branded, it went live in February, and I was going to leave myself off of it entirely. And I spoke to a couple of people I respect, and they were like, you have to include your story because people want to know the face behind it. And so it is a constant, ever-changing trend. It's something that, but with my brand anyway, or with our brand, with Anchored Outdoors, it works to have kind of the face behind it, but the focus, like at least the face behind it, but I want the focus to be on all the people with all of those incredible skills. And I think that I'm doing a good because it's not just me now, but myself, Tom, Jackie, the team. I feel like we do a good job of doing that in bringing the focus to other people, even though people know it's my company.
I think that's important. I think there's, like you say, there is that fine line between making something that's so detached from you that you can easily replicate it, or something that's so close to you that you'll be confined by it. So that's, I don't know if I ever told you, I got to meet Bear Grylls.
Right.
So Bear Grylls has a family life and the business side, and he calls it BG and Bear Grylls, right? So that's BG over there. That's the whole Hollywood TV stuff, and this is Bear Grylls over here.
That's so funny because when I do my projections, and I've done this now since 2007, I'm all about budgets and projections and goal setting. And I split my business because especially a few years back, I owned more than one company. And if you look at my projections, it's like I would have one company here, one company there, and the other company was AV.
Yeah.
And that was April Vokey, and it was the brand. Like and I literally, to this day, I sit down and I'm like, okay, that needs to make that much money. That needs to make that much money. She needs to make that much money. Like, I don't even look at myself like me. It's that's part of the company that needs to make a certain amount of income to make something work.
That's funny. What about if we just switch gears just a little bit? In that whole building of brand, you've made the very conscious decision to include your family in that. So you've got your daughter, your husband. That's got to be tough.
Well, it's a mistake. It's a mistake.
Yeah.
No one's called me out on this yet, but that's a mistake. So I very much, when I gave birth, even if you read my first post, it says, "You will never see a photo of my daughter," because I respect her wishes, and she might not want to blah, 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 especially with the internet. I don't want her to have all these I'm such a bad mom. I don't want her to have all these documented photos when she's older. And I just am too proud of her. So it's an Achilles heel. I have to pull my head in sometimes and be like, are you sure? Are you sure? But it's like, oh, but she's just so cute. Like,
she is cute.
But yeah, it's an error and a mistake. And it's probably one of the things I shouldn't be doing, but I can't help myself.
So we haven't talked about how you made that jump. There you are, guiding on the river, and you said, I know, I want to be on TV. I mean, come on.
No,
how did that jump happen?
Well, I've got to keep it real and honest. Admittedly, yeah. I mean, I always wanted to be on TV when I was younger. Like who doesn't back then grow up wanting to be on TV? It was at that point, it was your only outlet.
Right. Yeah.
There was no internet. If you wanted to have your voice heard, you went on to television. Yeah. And so when I was younger, I wanted to be on television. But as I grew up and evolved and had more opportunity with the internet, that slowly dissipated. But the television series happened because of what we were talking about earlier with this fear of boredom. Well, there's a number of ways that I'll take you down two different roads here. So the television series happened because I was already starting to write a book. And the television network had said, we want a show. And they'd been wasting my time for years of like, we want you to do a bikini show on a boat. We want you to do this show and that. Like, it was all just ridiculous nonsense. Right. And they finally must have got desperate. Again, television is very much times change by the season. Sometimes the execs want someone who's gun heavy. Sometimes the execs want a woman host. Sometimes they want it. It changes every day. But they must have been desperate. They said, well, take whatever you've got. And I said, well, I am subsidizing. I need my book to be subsidized. So why don't we do a television series about my book? And they said yes. And so I got to writing the series Quick Smart and wrote them this television series, teamed up with Nick Pujic at VP Media House in Ontario. And the show was picked up. And from there, I was still guiding. And then in my off season, I was filming the show. And while I was guiding, it was able to keep my brain spinning because I was writing my series while I was guiding.
Right.
But then the show was over and we'd done all of our filming. And I was really disappointed with editing that I'd had all these rich interviews and only 2 minutes of them were being used in the series. Right. So I'm guiding on the Dean, doing the usual thing, but now I'm not writing my television series and I start to get bored. Yeah. And that for me was like, okay, I'm not doing boredom. So I got this idea about doing a podcast. And I had told everyone I would guide for 10 years. And I meant that. I always said I would only ever guide for 10 years. I've said that from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And put in my 10th year and immediately went to work on my podcast.
Just like that?
Just like that.
you just picked up a microphone and a recorder and you just said, let's just start talking into this with other people? Or like, what was that? Was there a big research? How do I start a podcast?
No. My first episode was with Lonnie Waller. And so I had interviewed him at my home or at my camp in northern BC and was really disappointed that his interview, which is spectacular, had been cut down. And so I asked the TV show guys for all that audio. And then I converted that audio into my first episode. And then from there, got off. So I launched that one in December, I think 6 years ago. And then got myself the same, well, it's a different snowball mic, but just a little USB mic. And started going around and sitting down with people. It was tough because I only ever did my podcast in person. And I really worked hard to have it be just the top of the top of the top industry leaders. So it was difficult getting to a lot of them, but managed, yeah. And I didn't do a bunch of research. I kind of just went for it.
You just jumped right in.
Yep.
Well, it's definitely worked out well. And then you did some time with MeatEater.
Yeah. So MeatEater came into my life 2 years ago. When did I meet you guys?
About that, yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yes. Yep. And that went great. And then, as things do, contracts expired and I could either stay on and not own my content, but not have control over it in a lot of ways.
Right.
Or go independent and take Anchored Outdoors to what it is now. And that's obviously the route that I chose to go.
Right. And so you've got the podcast Anchored and you decided, let's make this community. Let's make this the master classes and the website of Anchored Outdoors. And that's got to be one heck of a learning curve because you went in from nothing, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I just wanted to build what I was craving.
Right.
And I felt like what was missing out there. I'm a new hunter and I'm a subsistence hunter and I'm not someone who enjoys killing. I enjoy hunting, looking for animals. I enjoy eating. I don't enjoy the killing and I really don't enjoy bro vibes.
Right.
I get it. I respect it. I am all about manly men. I think that it's okay for manly men to be bloodthirsty and talk about it, blah, blah, blah. Sure. It's just not what I am interested in listening to.
Right.
And so I wanted to create a platform of, a community of people and conversation that was appealing selfishly to me and hope that other people felt the same way. And wouldn't you know, there's a whole market of people out there who feel like that's been missing. And so that's really where membership started to pick up was, were these people who felt like maybe that, what's the word I'm looking for? Timbre of voice is missing.
Right. Okay. Good word.
Thanks.
So now February, you launched Anchored Outdoors. We are going to be coming up on a year in a little bit here. What do you see in the future for Anchored?
Yeah, great question. More community, way more community. I started the Facebook page pretty late into the business. Like the Facebook group's only been around for a while. And I'm just constantly in awe of the people on there and the community that builds totally. It's got nothing to do with me. It's just everybody networking, getting to know each other. They trust each other, but they also trust, they speak the same language, right? It's just,
right.
It's just everyone's kind of on the same page. Everyone's different, but they all have the same values as I think what I'm probably looking for. And I'd like to really take that to the next level. So the master classes will always be probably front and center because they are extremely interesting and well worth the money.
And they're beautiful.
Thanks,
they're well produced, they're well put together. They're really nice.
Yeah, it was important to me that our instructors would be proud of what they were putting out. And I think it's safe to say that we've done that,
I'd say so.
It's not me, it's the whole team, right? It's Tom is our homestead coordinator, Jackie's our hunt coordinator. It's the videographers. There's a bunch of videographers involved. It's everybody as a team, and everybody is proud. Every instructor is proud of what they've put out. And the next step is going to be interactive courses. So being able to do the courses together.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's important. A membership is no good if people don't use it.
Totally.
So it's important that we, if it takes a team to do it together and it gets everyone inspired and excited, then why not, right?
Totally. And I think like anything I look at from my perspective, looking at that business model, that community is the biggest thing that the most valuable thing that you can grow there, I think.
Yeah. And it's so much fun. Like we just started once a month we do members only fly tying nights, and they're interactive. And it's so cool that I'll have 100 people, because can only have 100 in a meeting. And I've got 100 people on my screen, and while the guest instructor is speaking, I can go through and teaching how to tie. I can go through and look at everybody's video and then be like, Tom, just real quick, tighten that hackle. Or, Laura, make sure that let me know if you need help with the whip finish later. And then they're chatting to me. And, it's just this real, you walk away from it feeling so fulfilled and so happy just to spend just time with, special people. I love it. I've never been so happy.
That's fantastic. That's really cool to hear. I mean, some people get into business for all the wrong reasons. And my personal thinking on it is, and I've said it before, if you're looking at it to get into business to make money, you're always going to be chasing the money. You're always going to be behind it. But if you're getting into it because you want to be able to offer something that you feel will be of value to others, that you enjoy, money's just a natural byproduct of the hard work and effort that you put in. And I always like to see other people who have similar business ideas and they do it because it's something that they feel will be of value to others. No doubt in my mind that Anchored is going to grow into a even far more successful than where it is right now.
Thanks. Yeah. No, it's looking good. Things are looking really good.
Before we wrap everything up here, do you have any advice to anybody else who's got a passion and would like to build it into their business or follow in the footsteps of the great April Vokey?
Oh, don't say that. It's not me. I'm just Oz. I'm just pulling strings while everyone else is doing amazing things.
The great AV.
the AV, right?
There you go.
My advice is, it's very easy today with the internet and with ego to paint ourselves into a corner. And I just think it's important that, aspiring, a lot of these people right now who might be listening, may be creating their own personal brand online. And that's important. You need that for that spreadsheet so that you can have your initials as, part of your business. But I believe in having a diverse portfolio. Like when I invest my money, I have a very diverse portfolio. Like my money's spread out everywhere. I would never just put it all in real estate or just put it all in stocks. It's everywhere. And I think business should be looked at in some way, in a lot of ways. The same way. And so it's nice to not back yourself in a corner because you won't always be young. You won't always be hot, for a lot of these young people. Sure. And I don't just mean appealing from an attractive stance. I mean, you won't always be the hottest angler. You won't always be the hottest guide or the hottest man or whatever it is that you're hot at. You won't always be the best. So it's a good idea just to have a backup plan. And I think there are a lot of people who are business owners at heart, and they might not know it. And I would urge you, anyone listening right now, to really take a deep dive into yourself and look at things that you did maybe when you were younger. Like for me, I was the kid selling lemonade on the side of the road. I was the kid when we would go to the barn. I was 4 years old, like literally 4 years old, collecting horsetails, the plant. Crushing them up and trying to bottle and like mixing it with water, trying to bottle and sell perfume to my mom's friends. I remember taking paper and putting it, while all my friends were outside playing. I remember Tyler and Cameron Kerr and all the kids playing in the cul-de-sac. And I was inside with my paper, taping it together and gluing pennies down it, making it look like a skirt that I could sell. All of these little things when I was younger. I just wanted to be a bloody businesswoman. That's what I wanted to do. But I didn't know. I knew, but I didn't know. And it's not like, I guess I wasn't going to start a big scale company when I was 10. And so, I guess it all happened in due time. But pay attention to those things. If you're out there and you were the kid wanting to sell things or have garage sales. Who doesn't love selling at garage sales? Or say you love going to Mexico because you love to barter. Maybe being a business owner is for you. And the other thing, Travis, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were saying you like to speak to other business owners who are passionate about what they sell. I don't even think that that's an option. Like if you don't love what you sell, to me, it's not even that you're a businessman. You're a sales or woman. You're a salesperson. You're selling. And That's just not, it's not sustainable. How long can you stay selling something that you don't believe in? So I really believe that for a lot of people listening who might be unsure if they're business owners, if they just find something that they believe in and pay attention to the little things in their past, they might figure out that they're more of a business person than they think they are. The other thing I would say to people who are thinking about getting into business, this is really important. Times have changed, right? Like I was just telling my husband this morning, I was like, if I would have known 15 years ago that the world would have all these like things like automations and analytics and tracking, it's just a different world than it was back then. So for a lot of people in their 30s who are like myself, late 30s, things have changed. There are a lot of ways to make business easier these days. But one of the things that I really want to be a takeaway for people listening right now is you don't need to get it perfect. You just need to get it going. And a lot of the people I listen to in business, this is an ongoing theme. You don't need to get it perfect. You just need to get it going. And like I had mentioned to you when we were off record at another point, fall forward, fail fast, fall forward, figure it out. It's, one of the first books I read on business when I was 20, is I read Think and Grow Rich.
Right.
And he makes it real clear. There's no failure. Like every time that you think you fail, you just figured out what you need to do differently next time. And just because something doesn't work one way, switch it around. Don't redo everything. That's the first time you put something out, whatever it is. The success of that is just your first attempt. And now you just need to tweak it. And, it can be something as simple as a sentence here or a timing there. And this thing called split testing, A/B testing, run tests, try things, see what works and what doesn't. So I guess what I'm saying is don't give up before you've at least tried, and please, this is the number one thing I see people do, don't wait to get it perfect. Just throw it on the wall and see what sticks. It's never going to be the same anyway. Everyone's like, oh, but I don't know exactly what my business is. I don't know what my business is going to be next year. It evolves, and you never know how it will evolve if you don't at least put some legs on the damn thing.
Well said. Well said. I think, there's a few things you just took right out of my head, it felt like, and better articulated it.
Aw.
There's a very successful Canadian fellow who says done is better than perfect.
That's right. Absolutely. Because it's never going to be, it's always going to change. And you won't know until you get the response and you get the community and you get the ideas and you get the criticisms. I used to be terrified of criticism. Who wants to be criticized? And now that's some of my best building blocks are based off of criticism.
Do you buy into the praise? If you give praise value, that means you probably give criticism value. I give
all feedback value. Anybody who takes the time to communicate to me, provided that it's done with mutual respect, because I don't just walk up to people randomly and slap them in the face. I would hope that they don't do the same thing to me either. All criticism and feedback and praise is listened to and appreciated too. How else do you grow, right? If your ears aren't open.
So inspirational. April, thank you very much for taking the time to be on the Silvercore Podcast. Always enjoy talking with you.
Likewise. Thank you.